how to catch up with the digitalization that has taken hold everywhere. And finally, transparency, visibility for multi-parties. Yes, please, David. A month ago, Microsoft announced publicly a partnership with Bank of America. In one of the implementations of this partnership is the standby letters of credit product. And what you see on the screen is the traditional process for standby letters of credit. If you understand what it is a trade finance, somebody wanting to import or export goods and entering an agreement with a counterparty in a foreign country, overseas. And then having to guarantee through the banking system that payment will be issued. It's a confidence that what we call the applicant of the standby letter of credit needs to give to the beneficiary, which is the counterparty doing the trade. If you are an importer in Argentina and you want to import some goods from Europe, the States, or Asia, you would have to issue a letter of credit so that the seller of the goods or services will have the guarantee of payment. So it's a very complicated process that takes in the province of a week, maybe, to several weeks. So we are talking days to weeks. And now, with blockchain technology, this has been reduced to quasi-real time, let's say minutes. So from weeks to minutes. The benefit is enormous. But it's not just the speed. One of the biggest challenges of participants in the trade finance supply chain is the lack of visibility, lack of transparency. You don't know where your transaction is operating. And now it's been streamlined. The applicant, let's say the importer here in Argentina, gets together with the beneficiary, the provider of goods or services abroad. They agree on the terms. The applicant has a bank that gets the request. There's a smart contract that gets processed by the bank saying, yes, I know the applicant. Yes, this is the credit line. Yes, we agree the terms and conditions. And immediately, through the blockchain, it flows to the applicant, from the applicant bank to the beneficiary bank. And everybody gets to see that that stage has been fulfilled. And finally, if the need for payment arises, then the issuing bank, which is the beneficiary bank, pays the beneficiary. Okay? So it's a streamlined flow. And just to put it in perspective, Microsoft Treasury has been very public about this. As I mentioned a month ago, there was a big global conference in Geneva. It's called CIBOS for all the trade finance and corporate banking businesses. And this was featured very prominently with a demo. Okay, so you can go and see how you started, you know, all the steps that are taken automatically and how it's finally completed. This is just one of the many examples. There are other use cases in capital markets that even have the ability to transform the financial service process from what used to be a serial chain of events into products that can operate in real time. Like, for example, in capital markets, this is a transaction called margin call. When you have a contract and the price of the securities change, the market moves, you need to get some money from the parties as it may apply to fund the transaction. that can be done in real time as opposed to what happens today that you need to do a mark-to-market from time to time.
So Guillermo, just to ask you a little bit more about the trade financing before we go into other use cases, which I certainly want to cover here. You mentioned this because trade finance is something that happens all the time, that these delays happen a lot. How much money are we talking about that could be saved by using a platform like this if we used it in one country or even globally?
Well, it depends on the company. If we are talking Microsoft Treasury that is moving billions of dollars globally in different currencies, and if you say that there's a good percentage of those, say, $100 billion that is moving through standby letters of credit, then the ability to transact the business in minutes rather than weeks, it's a benefit that is measured in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's a tremendous achievement. But let's talk about why blockchain itself is essential. Why not another technology? What makes blockchain so useful?
That's an excellent question. This has been debated. The trade finance industry tried to come up with protocols and standards to exchange messages electronically. But the difference here is the visibility and immutability of the records, the finality of what gets into the blockchain. So that level of visibility allows the decisions, like when are you going to release the goods or services to the applicant? Okay, you can do it much faster if you have the visibility to say the transaction is already moving, okay, or already moved, so I'm ready to go.
So Microsoft has some advantages. You guys have at the Azure cloud. Tell us how that relates to your innovations in blockchain.
The Azure cloud is transforming many industries, including financial services. It's transforming because it reduces the cost of processing very significantly, and it also provides what we call hyperscale. It's the ability to provide almost infinite computing power. So that applies to blockchain in many ways. If we talk about, for example, the consensus that happens with Bitcoins, it's too slow. We are bringing that level of consensus operation to quasi-real time. Okay? So, and that is because of the underlying architecture of blockchain as a service, but most importantly, the power of the cloud. And a question that also gets asked is, well, what happens when volume starts building up in blockchain?
In terms of scalability.
In terms of scalability. And that's where the cloud plays a big role. And we believe that many financial services products will make it to the cloud, but to get the most of that digital transformation, the blockchain seems like the right architecture. Also, there's a debate, how far are we from getting a full-scale implementation of blockchain, all the regulations, all the contractual provisions. And people said, well, it may take 5 years. Well, that was a year ago. Today they are saying it's going to be less than 2 years. And we see it accelerating, use cases like the one we shared.
Okay, and finally, before we move on, some of these companies that you've represented here that are your partners, can you tell me about how you partner with these companies?
It's really adoption. We are open, so we take any partner. All you need to do is contact Microsoft, go through the process of testing the blockchain as a service. Anybody can subscribe and test it, and then making sure that the service that is embedded is going to meet the interoperability criteria.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we'll next go to, can we go to IBM? another presentation. Thank you. So gentlemen, would you like to go and tell us a little bit about what IBM's doing with your project?
We've been all day talking about blockchain technology. And we're basically talking about these four concepts. The shared ledger, where all the transactions that...
A little closer.
The immutable ledger, where all the transactions get recorded. Capability to make conditions to those transactions, that's all the smart contracts. Privacy, both for the transactions and for getting that finality. Maybe talking about permissioned blockchains, the capability to give access to data to the right people at the right moment. And it also about consensus. All the parties need to agree that a transaction is valid before it gets recorded in the blockchain. The reason we talk about these four concepts is because our approach in IBM with the IBM blockchain is sees as a modular implementation. Our reference architectures see these as different modules because not every use case is the same. We are not seeing this only for the financial sector. There are several use cases for lots of industries, but not every use case is the same. So we need to be able to change some things of the blockchain. I mean, not all the consensus algorithms will be the same depending on the amount of participants. Maybe the way we do smart contracts won't be the same depending on the use case. So that's why our approach is making this modular and with our reference architecture still addressed. So there might be a lot of use cases, but basically what we are trying to do, no matter what is the use case, is to save time, to reduce costs, to reduce risk in transactions, increase trust between participants or increase trust in the system, and try to avoid intermediaries that today are the ones that give trust in the process. So our point of view is divided into these three pillars. First, we started working in the IBM blockchain like a year and a half ago, but February this year or December last year, we helped the Linux Foundation to fund the Hyperledger project and donated an open source what is today the Hyperledger fabric. This blockchain has this modular architecture that I was talking about. idea to the first project, a first prototype of and we are helping our customers to get to know the technology, to create awareness, and to start exploring what they can do and what kind of benefits they can obtain with that.
Actually, just add on that one in terms of working with the clients, as it was talked before in the previous panel. I mean, this is a technology. To get the best value for this technology, we need to apply it to the right business problem. So it just really comes to the question of, if we're going to use the blockchain, what kind of skills do we need to get most value out of the blockchain? I mean, we have been talking a lot about technology part in this conference. I mean, obviously, there is need for the people who understand the technology. For example, if we are talking about the Hyperledger, they know how Hyperledger is used and how to integrate that one. But in addition to the technical people, we also need the business people, the people who understand that specific domain. So we could say, this is the right business case, use case for this specific industry.
So IBM is training its consultants to be able to go and consult on this technical and complicated matter?
Actually, that's a good one. I mean, because actually, you may just know IBM as mostly a technology company, but we have a big operation, a group in IBM called the Global Business Consulting Services. So we have business consultant in almost every industry. Finance, media, government, and everything. So we have been using our consultants and the business experts, domain experts, who already know the domains, work with the client to come up with the specific scenarios, and then use that one.
So they need to understand the limitations and the power of, for instance, let's say Hyperledger, which is, as you acknowledge, an open source and interoperable platform that can be it's pretty modular, right? So what I'm really interested in, and I think what a lot of the audience wants to hear about, are the specific use cases and kind of how it happens.
Yeah, I mean, you see a number of the examples here. Let me just pick up one. It's called the IBM Global Finance. One of the things you may not know about IBM, like many clients, we have our own internal operation. For example, we have our own customer relationship management, we have our own HR, we have our own finance, and so on. So we use the technology ourselves to run our own business.
So you're your own customer.
Exactly. So one of the things we have, we kind of eat our own cookies also. Yeah. So one of the operations we have is called the IBM Global Financing. Simply provide the financing to our customer when they do the business with IBM and other places. So one of the scenarios we used was, again, IBM Global Financing as a financing organization provide the finance. Then let's just say there is a business partner who wants to invest or buy something. And there is also another third entity, a supplier who need to provide. So we applied blockchain to dispute resolution process in that specific problem. And actually, if you look at the kind of the financial value, every year, hundreds of millions of the dollar is kind of in dispute. Example of the dispute may be, I ordered something, I'm a business partner ordering something, but I'm getting an invoice to pay something, but I still haven't received that item. So today, that dispute resolution is done manually through the phone call, through the email. A specific average, it takes about 1 month and a half to 2 months and a half to resolve it, and costs lots of money.
Right.
By using blockchain to implement this solution, which is already in production, we are using in the kind of the production, it has saved lots of the money and lots of the time.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So we have to move on to Rootstock, then we'll come back. So please, tell us all about RSK Labs and what you guys have been up to.
So, hello everyone. I'm here to tell you a bit about what RSK is. First of all, I will review some stuff that has already been told in the morning, that it's about how internet changed our lives. Like, we are already used to the internet of knowledge, and about the changes that brought to all of us. internet enabled to share very quickly, efficiently, with no borders, lots of information, something that was beforehand unthinkable of. It gave us email, blogs, e-commerce, Snapchat, Facebook, a lot of stuff that beforehand we couldn't even imagine. We are now moving from that internet of knowledge to an internet of value, where those same advantages that brought the internet of knowledge to knowledge will be brought to the transfer of value. We will be able to move value efficiently, quickly, and without borders. And why I'm saying this, and why is this so important for us? Basically because currently we have in the world 3 billion people that are completely unbanked and completely out of the financial system. And those people are probably the people that mostly would need access to those services in order to leave poverty, basically. And we are facing a huge opportunity to change that. And Bitcoin and blockchain technologies are big enablers to do that. Now we have the opportunity to do that, and we have the technology elements to do that.
So tell us about what exactly RSK is doing.
Okay, yeah. So in RSK, we are building a platform that enables smart contracts on top of the Bitcoin network. So in RSK, we are based in 5 main pillars. One is giving smart contracts, enabling a blockchain that gives the possibility of writing smart contracts. Those smart contracts are fully compatible with the Ethereum ones. So basically, every dApp developer, every company that is developing their smart contracts for Ethereum will be able to run them on RSK. We are also we didn't, when we thought about our platform, we didn't think of using another token, about issuing another token. We rely on Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be the fuel used to run these smart contracts.
Well, we'll talk about that more a little bit. But
yeah. Okay, so we develop what we call a two-way peg mechanism that basically allows you to move your Bitcoins from the Bitcoin blockchain to our blockchain and vice versa. We also are providing what is called the merge mining process. We are enabling any Bitcoin miner to use the same ASIC hardware that they have, the same hashing power, to mine both blockchains at the same time, without extra energy consumption, without extra cost, and without harm to their Bitcoin mining. This gives us an extremely secure network, okay? Because we have a lot of hashing power.
Power of Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. We are relying on the power of Bitcoin to secure our network. We also put in place a federation of approximately 25 of the most respected Bitcoin companies from all around the world that will be providing services that are needed in a blockchain environment to develop corporate solutions. And finally, we are working closely with the whole ecosystem because we think that community involvement is also a key to the success of any blockchain initiative on the project. So well, we are working on several different programs. Our code is open source so that the community is involved and the project ends up being a success. Well, here this graph summarizes what I just mentioned. So we have the RSK blockchain that interacts with the Bitcoin blockchain, and it interacts in 2 main ways. One, we have the two-way peg mechanism that enables to move Bitcoins to our blockchain. So they allow you to move Bitcoins and convert them to what we call smart Bitcoins, and vice versa. When you want your Bitcoins back, then you just move your smart Bitcoins back again. We have the merge mining mechanism in place that enable Bitcoin miners to mine both networks at the same time, and we have the federation that provides services needed to develop corporate solutions. So summarizing, we think that this
Yes.
So our key goal is basically we think that we are building the next generation financial system, and we think that we have the technology elements. We think that the Bitcoin is a key actor and a key factor in order to do that. And well, tomorrow there's a talk specifically about the RSK launch. So tomorrow at 10 to 11,
well, we'll be there.
Talking about that.
Thank you so much. Well, everybody, I hope you have the chance later on to ask why Bitcoin or why not Bitcoin as the foundation of these protocols, these gentlemen later on. But thank you so much, everybody. We're out of time.